Good day, grade 11 students. This is Sir Peter, your virtual general mathematics teacher. So welcome to another general mathematics video lesson. I hope you are now ready to learn because today we are going to see how the functions we studied before are actually used in everyday life. So prepare your notebook, pen, and calculator because um, you might also want to pause this video anytime if you need more time to solve a given problem. So let's begin. So our lesson for today is lesson 5.2, functions in the real world. So in our previous lesson, we learned how to identify different types of functions. We learned some easy clues. A linear function is a straight line graph. An absolute value function has a V-shaped graph. A quadratic function has a parabola or a U-shaped graph. A square root function begins at an endpoint and it's also a curve. And a cube root function has an S-shaped curve. But today, we will not only identify functions, we will use functions to answer questions about things that happen in real life. Like, say, for example, how much will something cost? How much profit can a business earn? When will two plants have the same cost? Or what is the maximum height of an object? Or how far is temperature from a desired temperature? So these are the problems that functions can help us solve. So for our learning objectives for today, I will not read them anymore, but at the end of the lesson, and to make it easier, we will just focus on problem solving. So we will read problems, identify the situation, the important variables under investigation, and how do we model function, then we solve and interpret. So all of these steps we will um, talk throughout the lesson. But before that, let's first review what we have learned in lesson 5.1. So welcome to our activity number 1, which is entitled function recall. So I will be showing you some equations. So your job is to recognize the characteristic of their graph or what the graph looks like. Remember these rules. Linear means straight line, quadratic is U-shape, the absolute value is a V-shape, the cube root and the um, cubic function is an S-shaped curve while the square root is a curve with an endpoint. So let us see how much you remember in the previous lesson. So let's have the first question. You may pause this video. So do you see absolute value vars? So what kind of function is this one? Correct. This is an absolute value function. And what is the basic shape of the absolute value graph? It is the V shape, right? So look at the value x minus 4. X minus 4, this means that the graph shifts 4 units to the right and then 1 unit upward. So therefore, the vertex will be at 4, 1. Okay, so the correct answer is a V-shaped vertex at 4, 1 and opens upward. So what we did here is we inverted the H and the K, which represents the vertex. Remember, the vertex is at H and then K. But for the H value, we just invert the sign, okay? So remember this one. This is the general formula for the vertex, okay? The same follows with the quadratic function. The same rule applies. So let us proceed now to number 2. Please pause this video for a second while you are thinking. So you consider this one, -2, the quantity x plus 3 squared plus 4. As I've told you, the same follow rules. The highest exponent is 2, so this is considered a quadratic function. And because it is negative, the parabola opens, downward. So we are left in the choices B and D. And since we have the quantity x plus 3, it means that the graph moves 3 units to the left, while 4 units upward. So those are our horizontal and vertical translation. So therefore, what is the vertex? Correct. The correct answer is letter D. Okay, so the parabola opens downward and has vertex negative 3, 4, and its axis of symmetry is x equals h. But since h is negative 3, then your axis of symmetry is x is equal to negative 3. Okay, so remember the formula for the axis of symmetry? It's an x equals h. Now let us proceed to the third item. Now we have four functions here. So let's identify each one without graphing. Very good. The first one is a linear function. Next, it is a V-shaped graph, right? G of x is an absolute value function. So it's V-shaped. What about h of x? It is a square root. So the graph begins at an endpoint and curves to the right. And finally, our p of x is quadratic. Very good. So it's a U-shaped parabola. So which do you think of the following statement is correct? Now let us reveal the answer. I hope you have paused this video to answer. If your answer is letter C, then you are correct. Because g of x is a V-shape and h of x begins at an endpoint. Okay? So sometimes you do not need to make a table of values or draw the whole graph. You simply look at the equation. So the symbol or the exponent often tells you what type of graph it has. Let's now have number 4. So which function produces an S-shaped curve? Let us remember, is that the absolute value, quadratic, square root, or is it the cube root? Which one should we choose? Pause this video if you are still thinking. If your answer is letter D, then you are right because this is a cube root function. Remember that both the cubic functions and the cube root functions can look like an S-shaped curve. So always check the equation. If you see an x cube, then that is cubic. If you see a cube root of x, then that is a cube root function. Very easy, right? Now let us proceed to the last item. Consider the function, the square root of x plus 3 minus 2. What kind of function is this? Very good. This is a square root function. And then since the parent function is y is equal to the square root of x, now let us interpret what will happen to the graph. So since we have an x plus 3, therefore, the graph will shift 3 units to the left. It's the opposite, right? To the left. And we have a negative 2, which means it will shift 2 units downward. Very good. So the starting point becomes negative 3, negative 2. So if your answer is letter C, then you are right. So remember that the graph begins at negative 3, negative 2, and curves to the right because that is how the square root graph looks like. It has a starting point or an end point. Now that helps us to understand how the graph moved. So I think you were able to grasp all the learning competencies that you need for lesson 5.1. So we can now proceed to the main part of the lesson, which is modeling real life situation using functions. So what does modeling mean? It simply means that using mathematics to represent a real life situation, it means that for every problem, you will always be asked with these questions. What does X represents? Is there a constant or is there a quantity that stays the same? Now, is there a quantity that changes? That's the variable. What function can represent the situation? And then after solving that, what does it mean? Okay, so let's proceed right away to our illustrative example number 1. You can pause this video to read, so I will not be reading the entire problem anymore. To think, you have to read this problem with understanding. So please pause this video so that you might think. You get a pen and paper and try to solve the following sub questions. There are four sub questions in this problem. So let us start with letter A. So the amount that stays the same is, obviously, it is 120. And this is called the fixed cost. Okay. Now, what about the variable that changes? Okay. Correct. The provider charges 18 pesos per gig. So if X is the number of gigabytes used, then we represent it as 18x. Okay? So 18x represents the variable cost or the changing cost. So we have a fixed cost which is 120 and a variable cost which is 18x. And that will lead us to the next question. Now, let's combine the variable cost plus the fixed cost. So therefore, our function can be represented as a C of x, which means the cost function. So therefore, combining the two, we have C of x is 18x plus the fixed cost, which is 120. So what type of function is this one? Very good. This is a linear function. So many cost problems use actually the total cost is equal to the rate times the quantity plus the fixed cost, or it is C of x is equal to mx plus b. So if you use more data, what happens to the total cost? Remember that that value increases value because this is a cost function. Now let us proceed to the second illustrative example about the printing shop. So a printing shop charges 60 pesos fixed service fee plus 4 pesos for every page printed. So let us represent it using the cost function C of x. So we let x be the number of pages. So what is our function? So the changing amount is 4x and the fixed amount is 60. So therefore, our function is C of x is equal to 4x plus 60. Now, let us answer some of the questions here. We find the cost of printing 25 pages. Now, using the cost function. So we will have C of x is equal to 4 times 25 plus 60. So that means how many? Very good, 100. Okay? So C of 25 is 100 plus 60. So that is printing 25 pages will cost you 160 pages. Okay? So let's proceed now to the next illustrative example. So a school canteen has a profit function of P of x is equal to 50x minus 100, wherein x is the number of food packs sold. So we write it as 750, okay, is equal to 50x minus 100. So the next step is to add 1,000 to both sides. So that becomes 1,750 is equal to 50x. Now, for the final answer, we divide it by 50 both sides. So that gives us an answer which is x equals 35. So therefore, 35 packs must be sold to earn a profit of 750. So What does 35 represents? Um, it is not pesos, but it represents 35 food packs, okay? So always include the correct meaning or the unit for your final answer. Now let us proceed to the fourth example about internet plans. Now let's compare two internet plans, which is plan A with function a of x is equal to 400 plus 12x, and plan B with b of x is equal to 640 plus 6x. So where x is the number of additional gigabytes. So the question asks, at how many additional GB will the two plans cost the same? So there are two important words here. The cost should be the same. So what should we do? Since we have the same, we set the function equal. Okay? So what are we going to do? First, we write 400 plus 12x is equal to 640 plus 6x, setting them equal, the equality. Next, we subtract 400. So that would make 400 plus, subtract 6x. So that becomes 6x is equal to 240. Next, we subtract 400. So it will give us 6x is equal to 240. And of course, for the last step, we will divide by 6. So that is x equals 40. So therefore, the two plans have the same cost at 40 gig. Okay. Now, we find the cost. So let us use plan A to find the cost. So A of 40 is equal to 400 plus 12x. So which replace it by 40. And then the final answer becomes 880 pesos. So it means that at 40 gig, both plans cost 880 pesos. Okay? So the important idea here is that the coordinate 4880 is the point where the two graph meets or intersect. So when you graph A of x and B of x, they will intersect at that point, which is 4880. It means that both one of them must add a 40 gig so that they will meet at a plan that costs 880 pesos. Okay? So that's the comparative internet plan problem. So let's proceed now to the next problem. So a ball is thrown upward. Its height is modeled by h of t is equal to negative 5t squared plus 20t plus 2, where t is the time in seconds and h of t is height in meters. So we need to find what type of function is this one? When does the ball reach its maximum height? And what is the maximum height? So first, we look at the highest exponent. We have a t squared. So it means what type of function is this one? Very good. This is quadratic function. Now, so since this is a quadratic function, we describe it as with a with negative 5. It means it is less than 0. So it means that the parabola will open upward. And that is how we draw the projectile motion of the ball, right? That is what you see. So therefore, the vertex is also representing a maximum height because the parabola opens downward. Based from this, we need to find now the maximum value. So look at the coefficient of t squared. Okay, to solve for um, the maximum height, we use a certain formula, which is negative b over 2a. Okay? So, first is you need to make it a standard form, like an ax squared plus bx plus c. So obviously, this given quadratic function is on its form. Our a is -5. Our b is 20. And c is 2. So using the formula to get x value or the t value, we use the formula negative b over 2a to get the maximum height. I mean the maximum time. Okay? So we have -20 over 2 times -5. So -20 divided by -10. So obviously it is 2. Okay? So when the maximum occurs, always use the formula negative b over 2a. Okay, so it means that in this given problem, the ball reaches its maximum height after 2 seconds. So this is how we interpret it. The answer is 2 seconds because t represents the time. Okay, now let's proceed to the maximum height. To get the maximum height, now we know that t is 2 seconds, so we substitute it to the given function. H of 2 is equal to -5, 2 squared plus 20 times 2 plus 2. So 2 squared is 4, so that gives us a -20. 20 times 2 is 40 plus 2. So therefore, what is our h of 2? Very good. So that's 22. So therefore, the maximum height is 22 meters. So do not confuse. 2 seconds tell us when the maximum height happens. While 22 meters tells us how high the ball reaches, or that gives us an idea of the maximum height. So do not forget again the formula in getting the time. It's negative b over 2a. But we always use that formula to also get the x value. So it does not change. That's the x value of the maximum height or the maximum value. We always use the formula negative b over 2a whenever your quadratic function has a is expressed in its standard form ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay? So let us now proceed to the next example. So a farmer has 40 meters of fencing to build a rectangular vegetable garden beside a barn. So the barn already forms one side. So the farmer only needs to fence the three sides. So we need to represent the dimensions, we write the function, and find the maximum possible area. So first, we represent x as the width of the barn. So, but remember that there are two widths, right? So together, we use 2x meters. Well, the total fencing is how many? 40. So therefore, the remaining fencing is used for the length. So to get the length, we subtract 40 minus twice the width, which is 40 minus 2x. So we have the x, which represents the width, and the length, which is represented by 40 minus 2x. Now let us proceed to answering letter B. We write the area function. So remember that the area of the rectangle is length times width. So our width is x times the quantity 40 minus 2x. So our a of x now is x times the quantity 40 minus 2x. And then we multiply or distribute using the distributive property. We will have negative 2x squared plus 40x. Okay? So this is a quadratic function because the coefficient x squared is negative. Therefore, the graph opens downward. So the function has a what you call a maximum value. And that will lead us to the next part. Remember the formula, since the function opens downward and then the maximum value occurs at its vertex. And to get the vertex and the value of x, we use the formula. What is again the formula? It is negative b over 2a, right? So substituting the value, we have negative 40 over 2 times negative 2. It came from the the area function a while ago, which is negative 2x squared plus 40x. Next, so the answer becomes 10. So it means that the width is now 10, 10 meters. Now we find the length. How do we get the length? It is 40 minus 2x. So 40 minus 2 times 10. So that is 20 meters. Now we find the area now. The maximum area is length times width. So 10 meters times 20 meters, it makes 200 square meters. So therefore, the maximum area of the rectangular vegetable garden is 200 square meters. Now, why did we use the vertex? Because the vertex is um that gives us the maximum value, since the quadratic function is or the quadratic function opens downward. Again, what is the formula? It is negative b over 2a. Very good. Now let us proceed to illustrative example number 7. Let's apply now function to business situation. So a halo-halo stand sells each cup for 50 pesos and serves 100 customers per day. For every 5 increase in price, the owner expects to lose 10 customers. So we want to find the revenue function and the maximum revenue. So first, let x be the number of 5 peso price increases, and then the new price becomes 50 plus 5x. Now the number of customer becomes what? 100 minus 10x. So remember the revenue function. Revenue is price times the number of customers. So it means that we need to multiply for the revenue of X, the new price, which is 50 plus 5x, and then the decrease of customers, which is 100 minus 10x. So as you could see, this represents a quadratic functions. And using a FOIL method, so you may pause this video. Can you use the FOIL method and simplify our revenue function? So you just multiply 50 times 100, 50 times negative 10x, 5x times 100, 5x times negative 10x. And that would give us this one. 5,000 minus 500x plus 500x minus 50x. So obviously, this will be canceled. So what will remain is negative 50x squared plus 5,000. So we are making it standard, right? So the standard form is starts with the x squared followed by the bx and then the constant. But in this case, there is no bx. Our a, or I mean, there's no b. Okay, our a is negative 50, that one, and this is our c. But remember the maximum value, we don't need the C. We only need a B and an A to refer to a maximum revenue. So that will lead us to our question C. Okay, this should be question 6. So when does the maximum daily revenue occur? So using the formula of X is negative B over 2A. So that is 0 over 2 times negative 50, and that gives us the answer 0. So under this particular model, increasing the price immediately causes enough customers to leave, the revenue decreases. So therefore, the maximum daily revenue occurs when the original price is maintained. So it means that it is suggested that the halo-halo should be kept at that price. So you should not make it 55 or 60 pesos because you will decrease revenue since you are also losing 10 customers. Now, let us substitute that one, okay, to get the maximum revenue. So that is out of 0 now is equal to 5,000. So therefore, the maximum daily revenue is 5,000. So in this particular problem, function um helps us to compare choices and make decisions, and the result depends on the information and the assumptions given in the problem. Look at the conclusion. The owner may earn less than or equal to 5,000 pesos, meaning this is already the maximum revenue. So if the owner will increase prices, he will not be able to reach this maximum revenue. So it is suggested that the vendor of Halo Halo would maintain the price with 50 pesos per cup. It is not suggested to increase the price because the more customers it is, the more revenue that the business owner will have. I hope you understood. So the best way is to maintain it to zero. Okay, zero increase. It means that means zero. It doesn't mean that you will not sell it for free. Okay, but zero means you maintain the price to 50 pesos per cup. There will be no increase. I hope you're getting me. Okay? So let's have the last problem for this lesson. Now, let us use another type of function, which is the absolute value function. So a classroom is most comfortable when the temperature is 25 degrees Celsius. The school wants to know how far the actual classroom temperature is from 25 degrees Celsius. So it doesn't matter if the classroom is warmer or cooler. So we want to know how far is it from 25 degrees. So first, we identify the independent and the dependent variables. Um, the independent is the actual classroom temperature. So we represent it by X. The dependent variable is obviously the temperature deviation from 25 degrees. And then we represent it as d of x. So why is d of x dependent? Because the deviation changes when the classroom temperature changes. Okay? Now, let us write the absolute value function to measure the distance between the actual temperature and 25 degrees Celsius. We use the formula d of x is equal to the absolute value of x minus 25. So why the absolute value? Because we want the distance from 25. So distance cannot be negative. For example, suppose that the temperature is exactly 25 degrees Celsius. So 25 minus 25 is 0. So therefore, there is 0 degree deviation. The farther the temperature is from 25 degrees, the larger the deviation. So let us use that absolute value function to answer the next question. So suppose that the classroom temperature is 20 degrees. So we use the formula d of 20 is the absolute value of 20 minus 25. So that gives us the absolute value of -5. So therefore, d of 20 is always positive. So that's 5 degrees. But this also means that it is 5 degrees colder from the desired temperature. Now, for 31 degrees Celsius, obviously we will use d of 31. So 31 minus 25 is 6. So therefore, the absolute value of 6 is also positive. So d of 31 is 6 degrees. So 31 degrees Celsius is 6 degrees warmer than the desired temperature. Now, which is farther from 25 degrees Celsius? So 20 degrees is 5 degrees away, while 31 degrees Celsius is 6 degrees away. So therefore, 31 degrees Celsius is further. Now, let's reverse the problem. Suppose that the deviation is 4 degrees Celsius. What are the possible classroom temperatures? So, to answer that, we set the deviation equal to 4 degrees Celsius. Uh, what are the possible classroom temperatures? So, we write the absolute value of x minus 25 is equal to 4. So, the absolute value gives us two possibilities. Case 1, we use x minus 25 is equal to 4. We make the answer positive. So we add 25 and then the answer becomes 29. For case 2, we equate it to the other possibility, which is it could be a negative 4. So we add 25, both sides, and so it gives us an answer which is 21. So the possible temperatures are 21 degrees Celsius and 29 degrees Celsius. So why two answers? Because 21 degrees is 4 degrees below 25 degrees, while 29 degrees Celsius is 4 degrees above 25 degrees Celsius. So both are exactly 4 degrees centimeters away. Always remember this one. Absolute value is useful whenever you care about the distance or the difference, regardless of the direction. Okay? So for our activity 2, guided practice now, um, we will answer again every item. This will also serve as your reviewer for the term exam because some of these items are patterned to the upcoming term examination. So for every item, you read the problem carefully and identify what X means and choose the correct functions or process, solve, and interpret your answer. You may pause the video if you need more time to think of each guided practice problem. So let's have the first one. So a delivery service charges 45 pesos fixed booking fee plus a 12 pesos per kilometer. So which function represents the total cost? So think of the fixed cost as 45 while the variable cost is 12x. So which jive with your answer? Very good. The correct answer is letter B. So whenever you see fixed fee plus the amount per unit, think of it as rate times the x value plus the fixed rate. That is how we answer problems like that. Now let us now proceed to number 2. So a parking facility uses C of x is equal to 30x plus 50. What is the cost of parking for 6 hours? Okay. So we substitute C of x. C of x is 30 times 6 plus 5. So what's 30 times 6? So that's 180 plus 50. Very good. So if your answer is letter C, then you are right. So the 30 represents the amount of charge per hour, while 50 represents the fixed charge. Substituting a value for x would give us a new cost price for the parking. Okay? So always remember that. Number 3. So what do you do there? So how many shirts must be sold to earn 800 peso profit? So we use P of x as 800. You substitute that so that we will have 800 is equal to 80x minus 1,600. So you add 160 and then you divide the 80 both sides. What will be the answer? I mean, you add 1,600. Then you divide by 80. Very good. The answer is x equals 30. Okay, so 30 shirts must be solved here. Okay, so that's the answer. So if the problem gives you the desired output, then set the function equal to that value, and then you can now solve for the missing x. Okay, let's have number 4. So two ride charge, service charge, A of x is 60 plus 12x, and B of x is 100 plus 8x. So at what distance will the cost be equal? So again, you equate both sides. So 60 plus 12x is equal to 100 plus 8x, and then solve for x. How do you solve for it? First, you subtract 8x, next subtract 60, and then you divide by 4. What's the answer? Very good. The answer is 10 kilometers. Okay. So therefore, the two services cost the same at 10 kilometers. So definitely the answer is B. So if you see the word same cost or equal, simply set the functions equal. Okay. Let's move now to number 5. So a rectangular garden has an area of negative 2x squared plus 24x. What value of x gives us the maximum area? What's again the formula? The formula is x equals negative b over 2a. So when you see the maximum, this is always the formula, 2a. And then remember, this is ax squared plus bx plus c. So we have no c here, but a is obviously negative 2 and b is 24. So substituting, that gives us the negative of 24. It's negative 24 divided by 2 times negative 2. So that becomes negative 24 divided by negative 4. So the answer is B, which is 6. So why did we use the vertex formula? Because the question asks for a maximum value and the quadratic opens downward, obviously. So that is the maximum value. So our lesson for today gives us a very simple but important idea. If one thing changes because another thing changes, then a function may be at work. So think of all of our previous examples. More gigabytes can mean more higher costs or can mean a higher cost. More pages printed means higher printing bill. More products sold can change the profit. As time changes, the height of the ball changes as well. As dimension changes, the area changes as well. And as classroom temperature changes, its deviation from 25 degrees also changes. And that is what functions help us to understand how one quantity changes because another quantity also changes. So before we finish, let us review our most important ideas. When we model real life situation, always ask, what does X represent? Okay? So what stays fixed and what changes? For linear equation problems or function problems, especially costs, you always remember to separate the variable cost from the fixed cost. When you evaluate a function, you substitute the given value by x. But when two functions have the same value, you set them equal, just like the problem in our two internet plans. When there is a downward opening of quadratic functions, it always asks for a maximum value and you use the vertex formula negative b over 2a, that's for the x. And then to find the y, you just substitute dx. And when the problem asks for distance from a target value, regardless of whether it is above or below, the absolute value may be useful. Okay? So that concludes our lesson, which is lesson 5.2, functions in the real world. And it also brings us to the end of term 1. So throughout this term, we have learned many mathematical ideas, formulas, and procedures. But I want you to remember something very important. Mathematics is not only about solving numbers on paper, but mathematics help us understand what happens around us. So in today's lesson, alone functions help us to study different types of practical problems. Whether it is a C of x, P of x, A of x, R of x, D of x, or an H of t, do not afraid of these symbols. So um, we need to learn how um, all of these functions are applicable in real life. Okay? So again, I hope you find this video lesson helpful, I mean. So this is Sir Peter, your virtual general mathematics teacher, reminding you that do not only aim to get the correct answer, but aim to understand why these answers make sense. So congratulations for completing our lessons for term one. So review what you have learned, practice solving problems, and prepare for your upcoming end of term assessment. So trust what you have learned, take your time, read every problem carefully, and always give your best. So thank you for learning with me. Stay safe, keep learning, and continue discovering how mathematics works in the real world. So again, this is Sir Peter signing off. See you on term two in our next general mathematics lesson. Bye.